Hello everybody, it's the Alco Diesel Guy with another project for you. This time it's something more conventional. It's not an Alco, it's actually a GP40, a CSX GP40 by Atlas. Again, I got this off of trains.com. I paid somewhere around $80-something for it, I think. These are going to be pretty popular. It's in the original Bright Future paint scheme, not the new CSX boxcar logo. For some reason, I don't think Atlas has the rights to that paint scheme. Only Bachmann makes them, apparently, with that paint scheme, pardon me, on it. Anywho, today I'm going to attempt to install a sound decoder. This is a slightly older version. We can tell by the box here. Start with, it has plastic instead of foam inside it. And also, it says, the way it also says DCC ready. I'm actually wondering if this is even one of those that can actually accept this. The whole purpose of this project, again, is this is an XL Systems decoder I picked up. I'm planning to install this sound decoder in this engine and make it something really special if I can. I just noticed how the lettering is. I think that's why I may have gotten a price on this. So, first step first, let's get this thing out. If it's the type, there's a DCC readiness out of the box that's, I'm not sure exactly how Atlas arrived at. It's made with a specific decoder that TCS makes that slips in, and that's for the split board ones. Those are not very reliable engines. It's very well packed, I gotta say. It's in really good shape, so I hope I can convert this thing. If I can't, it's going to be a real waste. Oh, there's my first indication of something may not be in such good shape for me. This has an old school Kato type coupler. This is when Kato was making mount. It does have microtrains couplers on it, but they're mounted using the old school coupler pin thing, lock thing that Kato had. Just carefully now removing the shell. And I'm hoping I will not find a split board. If I do, this whole project just took a really bad turn. And it isn't good. I was getting nervous there, but it is not a split board. This is what I was hoping for. It's the single board. See, this is very similar to the G unit I did a little while ago. Get this out of the way so I don't smash it. It has a single board on the top, same sort of circa. It has, though, the carriers. I don't have to worry about the mounts on that other motor. Oh, those things drive me nuts. This has been very well maintained. I'm not going to bother lubricating it. I'm not going to overdo that. And you can tell my hand has already got grease on it, so clearly someone went in here and took care of this. I'm going to go ahead now and actually pop this open and see what I have to work with here. I should get this paper out of the way. My apologies if anything shows up on the right here. I can't see this part of my camera the way my mount is set up. I've noticed in some of my videos it has come up like that. My apologies. Let's go loosen this frame up and get in here. To install this decoder, I have to first get this shell off, as you can probably guess. I'm going to insulate this section right here. Even though a lot of people say you can get away without doing it. My apologies, I accidentally hit the pause button again trying to zoom me in. Again, I'm going to have to insulate this little section here, which is where the motor connections are, because I don't want them to make contact with the frame if they slip out. Let's go now and release this screw there. Pardon my hand. Let's now carefully pull this apart once I take the frame, the fuel tank off. Not sure how far Trains took this apart. And that's trains.com with a Z. Ooh, this is really stuck in here good. So good. I mean, it's all pretty too darn good. Why the heck is this stuck in there so good? Why, they put glue on this? Oh yeah, it is. This has got double-sided tape. That's strange. I don't know why they would need to do that unless they had to put a new... Unless somehow this is broken. That's strange. Okay, so I got these things loose. Now carefully release this. I'm going to undo this screw a little bit more. Couple of counterclockwise turns. I need to also remove this headlight bucket assembly to get that out of the way. And it should now be able to be split apart. Ah! Oh, I hate that. Oh. Okay. I don't think any harm was done. Knock wood, hopefully. There we go, knock wood. This is the standard board. Don't need that anymore. Put this here in the pile. Here is the one side, which I just took out. Yeah, it looks like this is all set to go here. It was apparently gently lubricated. So I don't need to mess with this. I'm not going to bother. I don't want to over-lubricate anything. This just got bent here, which is troubling. But I think I can bend that back up. Now, the XL Systems decoders Unlike the predecessor MRC decoders, XL Systems actually made them for MRC. Do not come with the solder on the pads like I've put here. Reason you need this is so that it takes up the space inside these tight frames. So I'm going to assume that this will now fit because I did this. Hopefully I didn't mess it up because I did it. Knowing my luck the way things have been going lately. And making sure you have the right orientation isn't hard. These two pickups on the bottom here, one of which again has been bodged, I see yet again, go right where these two fingers are. So there's again a sloppy bodging job. I don't know why all these decoders always show up like this. It's like they've been recycled, which is not a good sign. This has been sold to me as new. So I have to say all of the ones from XL Systems not good so far. Have been the ones that work. The ones I've had trouble with are the older MRC ones. Of course, those apparently were in stock for quite some time. MRC doesn't sell those decoders anymore. XL Systems now does. The only way to get the XL System decoders is to go on eBay, from what I can tell. Wasn't this just ironic? I didn't actually need to do what it looks like here. Yep. Okay, so it appears I made a lot of work for myself for nothing. I didn't need to actually put solder on these joints. It would have slipped right in place. Oh, for God's sake. Alright, gotta fire up the soldering iron and get rid of some of the solder. Okay, I now have undone my repair and gotten most of the solder off. Let's now proceed with getting this thing in place. The first step, of course, is going to be to insulate the frame. We'll start with this side here. Again, this little depression here in the frame is what I'm going to be insulating. Just going to go grab some Kapton tape, which I have sitting here on my workbench. Okay, I've cut some off my roll. Almost using this at this point. I somehow don't think this is going to make contact, but everyone suggests I do it, and I've been doing it, so I figured, okay, I'll just keep doing it. That is to, what I mean by that, of course, is to just keep adding this stuff in place. Let's now go and just cut this off. That's one side wrapped. Let's do the other side. Gonna now need to take the actual motor out to do this. It's very awkward to do it. That's why I've been contemplating not doing this anymore, but my gut, I won't be able to sleep if I don't. It's gonna drive me nuts, so I figured to save myself some mental agita, I'm just gonna do that. So let's now remove these drive shafts, the worm gear shafts, and we'll just go take everything out. All this is going to have to come free. I think I can just get away with leaving them hitched into the motor and just pushing it out. Now I'm going to push with my fingers on the bottom of the motor and just gently push the carrier and the motor assembly out. Note to self, this side is the one you want. This larger piece, the larger contact, goes on the top. Let's now pop it out nice and gently. Nice and gently. There we go. Okay, is that out? Yeah, almost too easy there. Yeah, there it is. Didn't go nuts this time. I can actually leave these gears in place. I'll put them back in a second. Now, a little bit more Kapton tape. Okay, so now let me cut the excess off just like I did before. Lay this flat on the ground. Flat on my board, I should say, on my table, and I'll cut it this way this time. Make sure I have the blade down. Intense pressure, and it should just come right off. There we go. That cut very nicely. I had to really put a lot of pressure on it, though. Surprised this blade is pretty sharp, but apparently it's dulling already on me. Again, it's a cheap hobby knife off the shelf from Walmart, so I guess what do you want? Okay, time to put this back together. Let's start by putting this motor in like it was. Again, the longer side goes on the top here. Oop. This thing didn't get too close to the motor. I hope I didn't damage that. Let's now put that in place. Press this in carefully. Squeeze it in. There it goes. That's in. Next, I'm going to put the shafts back in place. These have already been pre-lubricated, so I'm not going to touch them in this case. Tempted to put a little grease on them, but I think since this has just been serviced by Trains, I'm going to assume it's okay. Okay, that's all back in place. So now all I have to do is get the board back in place. This new board, which I have undone the repair to, or the sort of modification to. I guess that's the reason why it's now strictly being marketed. I notice also in the instructions as a GP40 board, which is fair enough. This is also designed for a GP40, but it's also designed to do all those other things. Ugh. Okay, let's now slip this in place. Tape moved a little bit, but it's still covering it, so it should be good. Okay, right there. Gotta now make sure that all these 2 points, these contact points, touch these 2 plates in the bottom. As you see, they're not in alignment correctly right now. And first line up the top pads so they go in, so I can see what I'm working with. It's going to be held in very rigidly. Actually snaps in place. It feels very positive locating in place. Almost too positive, if you will. No, it's now... Oh, I should have just done this. I'm almost tempted to cut this contact down. Just forced it in there. Now I'm going to gently align it. I don't want it to cross. I want it to go on the other pad right over here. And I think I'm going to have to pull this out again. Yeah. Okay, let's now see if we can make it fit. It's got to touch that pad. Press this contact a little bit more. I really don't like how long this thing is, but apparently that's how these were made from the factory. Because I didn't mess with it. I'm almost tempted to cut it down, but I really don't like the idea of doing that. Because once you mess with these, you can't get them back. Ugh. Well, I can actually lubricate the commutator on this motor. That's a nice little touch. It's an older motor. Okay, that's in place now. Let's now shove this into this. Have the pads in place here. Force. Very tight fit. Look like it's into you guys. Don't look quite like how that's making contact. Looks a little bit off. Let's push this in. If I tweak this a little bit more. Famous last words. I think that's how it's going to go. It should be in good place. Okay, so now I'm going to take the other part of the shell and place it right on top. If I can remember where I put it. Here it is. Insulators are still in place as we see, so all I have to do is just drop this in and it should cover right over it. Oh, wait a minute. What happened to the... Didn't I wrap this with... Looks like the tape came right off this thing. Is this the one? It is. Just the tape came right off. I don't think the Kapton tape I have is in the greatest of all shape, if I'm honest, but yeah, I'm going to probably have to get another roll of this. Okay, so I now just went over it. Okay. Now let's go on top like we have here. The other piece of tape is hanging off by a thread as well. I'm not taking it apart now, so if it works, it works. It's locked in place, so it's not going anywhere. The important part is sealed in there. So thinking this, all right, yeah, I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm not taking this thing apart, so I see many people get away with it. I'm just going to leave it like it is. Snap it in place. Snappity snap. Now nicely snapped in place. Let's now put the trucks back on. So that's one truck. That's two trucks right here. Snap it right back in place. There we go. I'm not going to put the washers in place yet. I have them both right here. I'm going to first test this thing. Let's go back out to 1. Zoom times 1. There we go. Let me get my program track, and we're going to try this thing now, see if it fires up, and hopefully doesn't catch fire. Maybe I should rephrase that term and stop using it. Okay, smoke test. Power's coming on. There it is, number 3. Oop. Good thing I turned the throttle down. That would have run away. I think I had this assigned. Oh, I did put it on 3 again. Okay. That's actually the proper sound effect for this engine, ironically enough. Nothing yet. Ah, there it goes. So I did get it working. Looks like we had a contact problem, which seems typical with these decoders. Not permissible, but typical. Motor's having a little trouble spinning over. I may have to lubricate that a bit. Yeah, I think I have some contact problems I got to look at here. Okay. So it's not taking power correctly here. Are these first things first? Are all my contacts in the right place? This should be bent downward a bit more. Try again. Sound just cut out. It stalls again. Not a great unit, is it? It stalls again. These things are not the greatest things in sliced bread. Let's see if I'm getting power here. Lift this truck up. Front truck's got juice. Go my rear truck. Rear truck's got juice. So it's not the power. Hopefully it's not the decoder, because that means that means the whole thing's been a waste. Let's go right here. In this case, the bumper's right there. Go the other way. Again, it won't switch directions. It does not like to spin the motor over. Running a little bit better now. Give it a full blast run, see if I can maybe clean the brushes out. It seems like the motor is causing the problem. It has a hard time changing directions, because when I order it to change directions, it cuts out. Or when it has to put any kind of strain on the motor at all, it just cuts out. So right there, the motor starts to spin, but it won't spin. So I'm thinking if I put a little lubricant on my commutator, that might help it out. I'm noticing the motor starts to turn and then it stops. So it's like it's getting hung up on something. The only thing that I think that can cause that kind of issue is a commutator. This isn't quite as free. So let me go lubricate that just a bit, because most people don't lubricate that when they sell it. I understand why they don't do it, but my logic is if it doesn't run, then what's the point in having it? They don't want to touch it because that lube can dry and cause problems. I'm aware of that, But my logic also is, if it doesn't actually work, then what's the point in actually having the locomotive to begin with? Let's go down 3 times and move this a little bit over so you guys can see what I'm up to. There's a little hole right here in these motors, these Atlas motors. You actually just get a teeny weeny bit of conductive lubricant into a cap here. I'm just going to use the cap that this thing came with. So I'm going to put a little bit on my brush and just go on this. Oh yeah, look at this. There is some dirt on the commutator. You go and clean this a little bit more. I bet you that'll smoothen things up a bit for it. Okay, let's try this one more time. Hopefully onto the track. Okay, back out to ×1. Listen to that. Now that is much better, more impressive. I don't know if you saw how easily it spun over there. It just immediately took off. It didn't hesitate at all. So I think that'll speed things up. Let's go the other way now. Sound keeps cutting out on it, though. It's not the greatest runner, but I think that's just what I'm going to have to put up with. It's running a little bit better now. It's actually running a lot better now. Now it's really running freely. It's amazing what a little lubrication on the commutator will do for one of these engines. Because now that I did that, it really wants to take off. It's moving along much easier. Yeah, that's a very satisfying fix. It's also running quieter now. Okay, so I think I fixed that. So it just was a little lubrication needed on the commutator, and that seems to have corrected the problem, knock wood. I would knock this now, but I got stuff in my hands, and it's quite greasy. Okay, let me go wash my hands first. I'll be right back. Okay, so now I'm just going to finish this up to put the washers back in place so I can tighten the frame. It's amazing that this is actually just finger tight right now. Okay. Let's go down to 3 ×3s. Managed to pull that off without resetting the camera again. There we go, that just plugs right in there. Push those in place. There we go. Push them both in place. Now I'm just going to carefully turn this around. Take my screwdriver and screw down the 2 screws. One. And a 2. Nice and tight. And this should now be fine. Let's put this back on the track one more time. Make sure it's all well. It's all good. Okay. I'm actually going to clean my track with what's left on this brush here. Let's try this one more time. Let's go out to ×1 again with you guys. Grab my controller and I'll just make a few more passes back and forth. Make sure she runs the way she should. Still programmed to address 3, which I'll change in a bit. That's much improved. All this with just a little lubrication on the commutator. It's amazing what that can do. I know people say don't do it in some cases, but compared to what it was running like before, I'll take a chance on it. Because before, it was just not acceptable. It was stalling and just cutting out every chance it got because the motor was trying to spin over. I should explain what's happening here. When you have a DCC decoder, it has certain voltage limits it can provide, and if the motor takes too much current, it will actually cause the decoder to crash, like a computer running out of memory. And when that happens, you have to essentially reboot it, which is why the sound cuts in and out. So, and when you have a situation, I should mention, when the commutator is gummed up or isn't as well lubricated as it should be, you'll get the situation where the motor needs more current to turn over, which in turn, again, gives the situation I just described. So to get around that, all I did was simply lubricate it, and it fixed the problem. Let's do this again. Oh yeah, there we go. Nice and smooth. Tape is actually still in place, believe it or not. I don't know how it stayed in place, but it is. Runs a little rough, but that's it. Yeah, it's much better now. One improvement. So if you get hesitation like that, mostly it means your commutator needs lubricating. Luckily, this older style Atlas locomotive is capable of having it. This older build with this older black motor. The gray color motor doesn't allow you to do it because they have this whole area sealed off. This one doesn't, so that's why I was able to do that. Okay, so with all this done, I'm now going to finish assembly. I'm going to put the fuel tank back in place. It just snaps onto the bottom here. It's got double-sided tape on it. I'm not sure if that was required or someone put a different fuel tank on this than it's supposed to have, or if that was a factory thing, but that's how it is. Let's see if I can get this headlight assembly back in place here. And that did actually go in place. This is actually more meant for this engine, so now I have now snapped this piece back in place there. Now I just need to get the shell, put that back on, which I have stashed over here. There she is. There be my shell, and in it goes like that. Again, the front goes to this little headlight bucket. Again, it's designed to force the light to come out of the actual headlights than the actual cab windows, which is a common theme on these engines. Engines when they're not done right. Let's now try to get this in place here carefully. It'll be a bit of a tight fit. These decoders always tend to affect the way these things fit. There it is. Oh, I'm almost down a little bit further, and there it is. And just like that, I finished it. Well, not quite. Need to do a few little tweaks. I want to change the horn on this because I hate that default horn. I'm going to program the address, which is 6221. It even sounds louder now that I put the thing on because this shell acts as a baffle for it. Okay, so let's do some programming here. Let me put a different horn in to start with. Do I have these instructions or do I have an MRC instruction? Because they're both the same, essentially. Well, here's the instructions for this. I got it. Okay, so I'm going to keep the prime mover because that is accurate for it. I will change the bell, so let's do that first. .52, and let's go to, oh, there are only 7 types, but it probably has more than that. So let's go to CV52, program, main track. 3, we're going to actually change the address now. We're going to change it to 6221. Okay. It flashed briefly, so I think that means it took the address. Let's go to CV. I change it's 52. I change the bell type first. Let's go with let's change the bell type to number 2. Let's change the horn next. 22 horns, so CV50 does that, so CV50. Let's go with horn, thinking carefully out of my head. $17. And let's see how this all came out. I'm just going to now go loco. I got to select my new address, 6221. Yeah, it doesn't sound right for this thing. Let's go mess with that again. So let's program on the main track again. $50. Let's go with number 6 instead. And the horn won't work. That's the wrong horn. I really don't want to use that one. I got to change the bell type anyways. Let's go program again. I'm going to keep messing with this, but I'm going to cut a lot of this out. CV 52. I don't like that bell at all, so let's go to 6. And let's do horn type 50. Put it on number 16. Keep that belt. That's an interesting one. I'll keep that. Okay, so with that, I got it all set. Let's just do one last test. Let's put the headlight on again. Oh, it looks nice through that light deflector. LEDs built into the decoder again. There's a little bit of a grind coming from the drive shaft. Another notation, again, it has the microtrains coupler, so that's a nice upgrade for this unit. Yeah, so I'm happy with that. That's a good runner. Alrighty, let me also go through the shutdown sequence. Let me hit F8 in this case. I'll do the startup sequence now. Pretty cool sound effect. Okay, and with that, I've got this engine running, and I'm happy with it. It was a lot easier than I thought this was actually going to be. Harder in one way and easier another way. That's going to do it for this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If not, thumbs down. Please like and subscribe, and as always, keep the metal side down. Doesn't like this thing again.